Hey guys, welcome to the final episode of the season. Ben and I have a special guest for you guys, Kyven Gadson. Kyven Gadson's going to be joining us to close out the season, talk about we're just going to talk about the tournament, the season, and Kyven always has a lot of insightful knowledge to share. So I'm sure he's going to take us for a ride on the wrestling topics of the day. I don't know. I'm excited. I'm very excited for this episode. So hope you guys enjoy it. And yeah, hope you enjoy the interview.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited.
We're pumped to have you. It just felt kind of appropriate to close it out for the season to have you on.
I appreciate that. Well, before we get going, I'm going to start off with some toxic behavior.
Okay, love it.
I brought you guys some stuff.
Oh my gosh.
My gosh. The issue
ice cream.
Let's go.
That is arisen is that I don't even know if that's grammatically proper. My mom would be disappointed. Is there's a big one?
Yeah.
There's two little ones.
So
you guys are gonna have to rock, paper,
scissors.
Is it out for the championship?
Okay.
Because I did forget you're gonna be here, bro. So my bad.
Thanks.
Because I was just gonna give them these.
Yeah.
And they were gonna be happy, and then I was gonna keep this for myself. But then I was like, just figuring things out. So y'all can rock, paper, scissors. You can do that now. Toxic. Me is like I want to see the competition happen.
No, I'm with you.
You guys can do that later. But I just wanted to let you guys know I appreciate you having me on. And
well, we appreciate you bringing ice cream.
Yeah, Kyven, thanks for bringing all of us ice cream.
I could have just brought the two, but that would be toxic. This is just like a little less toxic, and someone's gonna get, the champion is gonna get the big one.
And Aiden doesn't even appear on screen ever. Like he doesn't have a camera facing him, so we could have just pretended that he didn't even exist.
Yeah,
it's just me and Jackie, and then you could have kept your big one.
See, but my
you're too kind, is what I'm saying.
There's I was like, oh man, I messed that up. But we all make mistakes.
No, you didn't mess up.
No,
free ice cream is free ice cream.
Yeah,
even if I get the small one, it's golden. I love it.
Full bias. It's really good stuff. So
for sure.
Are you bringing ice cream to Si's house this year?
Actually, they had it there last year.
Yeah,
they did have it there last year. Yeah, but I didn't get any. So like,
you didn't get any of your own ice cream?
I think I did.
Because you were there, right?
Yeah, I was there.
Okay.
I was just like ripping and running, doing like doing donor relations stuff, fundraising.
Yeah. That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Well,
do we want to do the competition now? I'm a competitive person. I'm with Kyven on this.
Do you guys want to play rock, paper, scissors? Too bad Aiden's not on camera.
Yeah.
I think he should get on camera.
Aiden's coming.
Yep.
Aiden's
right.
coming on camera.
First ever appearance of Aiden.
Let's go.
If you didn't know what Aiden looks like.
All right, so we're going rock, paper, scissors, shoot, and on shoot we go.
Oh, this is
rock,
elite.
Paper, scissors, shoot. Okay, that's all tie. So go again. Okay. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Oh,
Aiden gets the big one.
Gets the big one.
Look at that. See? Look at that.
There you go.
Yay.
Kyven, thank you.
No problem.
Aiden started as a loser, but left the winner.
For those that are listening, Aiden had paper and Jackie and I both threw rock. So
I love this.
It's a cold world.
It's a cold world out
there.
Like
they said
luckily there's ice cream.
They said there's like a bunch of psychology to that. Like,
rock, paper, scissors?
Yeah, like rock, paper, scissors.
Like how you decide what you're gonna do.
Yeah,
I believe that.
I'm like, yo, that's way too deep for me. Like rock, paper, scissors IQ is like crazy.
Yeah, that's nuts.
But
goes above our heads.
It does.
Some of us are built different, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, get out of here.
Like,
get out of here. Makes one on-screen appearance and
look at the walk-off is crazy.
First time on camera and this is what happens.
Yeah.
No, I love it. Awesome. Well, thank you for the ice cream. Aiden's the winner here. He gets a massive one. Will it last you to Si's house?
It better not.
Let's see.
When Si's house?
April 20th.
No, it should. If that's not gone by April 20th, we got a problem. You shouldn't have won it.
I respectfully.
We'll be in touch, guys.
Well, anyways, wrestling season. It's officially over, sadly. And you got to go down to Kansas City, do some fun stuff. How was the tournament for you from a general perspective?
It was amazing. The wrestling was high level. my experience, this was like a new experience for me. Like I've been to the tournament as a wrestler. I got to go in 2017 as a grad assistant coach. And this is my first time going as a media presence or a media personality content creator. And so I got to do some work with UFC Fight Pass and NCAA wrestling, as well as Cyclone Radio. So it was a full, 4 days, and it was exciting. But like the level of wrestling, I think, has evolved a lot since I was in college 9 years ago, finishing up. And so it was really fun to see the support around it, how things had kind of changed, and just like the atmosphere is always, I feel like, electric. But I don't think I had ever got to experience it like that close, where I'm not in the fray of it, So it was a really neat experience, and one that I hope to be able to follow up and create more opportunities and have people, open up doors, windows, whatever, however I can get in the building, to showcase like my love and help grow the sport in just like a different way. I think something I've really like thought about is like, one of the people that I admire in that space is like Shane Sparks and what he's been able to do with Big Ten wrestling. And after Big Ten wrestling, I think Big 12 wrestling is right there as a premier conference. And so I'm like, well, no one's doing that or filling that gap. So that's something that I think about, filling that gap and being able to be kind of like the voice of Big 12 wrestling, face of Big 12 wrestling, whether that's like interview content, breakdowns week to week, all those things. And just continuing to keep me connected to the sport that I love. So
yeah, absolutely. You mentioned Shane Sparks, and you mentioned the electric atmosphere of NCAA tournament. I think the thing that makes Shane so great is he makes you feel that electricity through the screen, or however you're taking in that content. You had a phenomenal call of David Carr's match, and like when you first said like the feeling of electricity you get from being there, like that was the first thing I thought of. Like you could feel the electricity from your call, and that was such a phenomenal call. Take us through that moment for us.
It was wild, because I think you guys kind of like have an understanding, like our family relationship kind of goes back to like my dad and Nate and senior. And so when I won nationals in 2015, I remember I sent David I just want some ice cream shirt. So I got a picture of him like wearing it like at Iron Man, because I think he asked for that. And I think we talked at St. Louis. I think that was his first NCAA tournament he got to watch, right? And so I think him seeing someone that was like close to his family do that, it doesn't feel like it's far-fetched. Even though his dad had done it, 3 times, it just doesn't, when you see someone or you meet someone or someone has done it, it's like, oh, like it's just normal behavior, it doesn't feel far-fetched. So when he came on his visit, I drove him back to the airport, and that Monday we hadn't talked like a ton, but like we talked on Sunday, because I just popped into practice because I just wanted to kind of stop by, and he was like, hey, you mind if we catch up? And so he came by the ISU Foundation, and we chopped it up that Monday, just kind of just like reflecting about his journey a little bit. And yeah, so it was just like, it felt really like, I guess, near and dear to like my heart, and just Iowa State wrestling is super near and dear to my heart. So it was in that moment, I was like up there with UFC Fight Pass and just like following the guys that we had interviewed. And David was one of the guys we interviewed. We also interviewed Swiderski and Chittum from Iowa State. And it was like, all right, I think Nate's probably down there on the mat. Let me just swing over to Joe and Ryan. And I had swung over, I think, the night before just to say hello. And yeah, it was literally just like an emotional hijacking. Like it was just like I just emotionally like got hijacked, because it's just like you kind of know what someone goes through. Being as like in 21, I was in the room every day with him, and we were wrestling and, you know, working on things. And then once my career kind of ended, not in the room as much. So the, you know, the relationship probably isn't as consistent with, you know, talking about wrestling, things like that. And then just to see him essentially overcome, you know, like a deficit or someone that had been maybe not a thorn in his side, but an opportunity to grow for him. Was like, it was just like, it was amazing. It was incredible. And the way he did it was just like incredible. Like it took, again, I think he just made a decision. It was like, I'm not losing. And like, literally, I think oftentimes that's really what it comes down to. And it was like, he made that decision, and you could just tell, like, when he ramped it up, like he was going to figure out a way to get it done, or at least I felt that way. And the way it was just like he got to the leg, and we were talking on the radio. I think we were talking about what he needed to do. And I was like, if he gets to the legs, he's going to have to drive his feet, you know? And he got there, and I was like, drive. And then it was just like, I was like, that's 3. Like, and then it's just like, David, God. It's just like, I don't know. It was just straight up emotional hijacking. And then Joe's right there. He's like, don't leave me hanging. Don't leave me hanging. And I'm just like, yo, this is crazy. But, and then Ryan was just like David Carr. And I was like, I never yelled a man's name like that in my life. You know what I mean? And so it was super, super excitement. I think, for just David Carr fans, but just Iowa State wrestling fans and wrestling fans in general could attach to that. You know, I think those are the things that wrestling teaches you, is like, all right, if you lose or you come up short, how do you adjust to that? How do you adapt? How do you evolve yourself and address the flaws maybe that you've shown, or the skill deficit, so that it doesn't happen again? And so that was super powerful to watch that. And yeah, it was just awesome.
Yeah. From your perspective, I don't know if you've talked to David before or after that necessarily about that match. But what were the biggest adjustments that you saw that he made to wrestle Keegan O'Toole in that way? Because I mean, in the first match in the Big 12, not the first one this year in the Big 12s, David shot early and often. It didn't quite work out for him. In this match, I think he actually got hit for stalling in the first period. Yeah. And then gave up a takedown. And then that's when he didn't. He got a takedown, but then he really got going later in the match. What adjustments did you see that he made in that match?
I think when you go out and you're always used to scoring, and you have someone who's as fluid with their defense, I think when you get scored on, or they score on you, their confidence goes up, and yours, maybe it stays even, but it's just like, it was like a dogfight. So I thought he kind of just was like, all right, you know, like, let me wrestle hard, and this person is maybe going to make the adjustment, because I don't think Keegan shot a ton in those other 2 matches. He just capitalized a lot on David's, which was great. But then David's like, all right, let me pull back, because if I'm not as offensive, it'll give me an opportunity to maybe let him wear himself out a little bit. And I think, you know, long term in those 7 minutes, it played to his benefit, because I think you saw Muhammad Ali do it, and, you know, like in terms of like a rope-a-dope, just like, all right, I'm gonna let you wear yourself out and bring everything that you have, and then I'm gonna turn up my gas, because I kind of just been, you know, being efficient, I guess, with my energy. And so it was, I felt like his adjustment to pull back on the offense, which someone that's super offensive like that is hard, you know, but I think that speaks to his mad IQ and his wrestling intelligence, and just how he views the sport. It's like, it's great to go out and score, you know, 20 times and shoot 20 times and score a lot of points, but sometimes tactically you have to make some adjustments. And I think that was one of the adjustments that he made that played benefit. Because it's funny, because one of my coworkers that's watched him since last year was like, I didn't really enjoy it that much, because he wasn't as offensive as he normally was. Sure. I'm like, look, man, I'm sure he doesn't care.
Yeah. If you're beating Keegan O'Toole,
you see that Stephen A. We don't care.
Yeah.
Like my man's trying to get the job done. And sometimes you got to make some like tactical adjustments to do that. And kudos to him.
And he hit an awesome super duck. So if you don't love seeing an awesome super duck against the number one guy in the country, then what are we doing?
Just like doing stuff that he's done all the time, but like had put back in like his back pocket for a rainy day fund, which he needed, like he needed it, and it worked out well because I hadn't seen him. He's never tried that versus Keegan.
No.
And so it was like fun to see him kind of get back to like his like super 32 days, where he was like doing stuff. He looked like he was a little bit more free.
That's exactly what I said.
I'm gonna throw everything at you, and if you can withstand it, then
kudos to you.
Kudos, bro.
Yeah, because I had some people tweet at me that they were really stressed about that late takedown, and I was like, but if you really watched him, he looked so comfortable, so poised. Like I was stressed as a fan watching, like, oh my gosh, I need this to end. But you could just tell that, like you said, he looked like he felt confident that he was going to win.
Yes.
There wasn't a moment where I felt nervous because he looked nervous.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it was peace. Whether I think he was at peace with whatever happened because he knew he did and made the adjustments he felt like he was supposed to make. And it was just like he was able to, come out victorious and get his hand raised, And so I think he was going to be at peace regardless. I think we've seen that from him, I think, just throughout his career, especially like wrestling with Keegan. Like I think he knows he put it out there all five times against him, and even the 2 times that he lost, I think he was at peace with the effort that was put out there. I don't think he can look back at his career too many times and be like, like my effort wasn't there. And I think you're in a really good spot. Whereas like when I look back at my career, I'm like, ooh, there's some like times where I'm like, like your focus wasn't there. I don't know if it was like a full blown like effort thing, but just like a emotional focus thing. And so I just got a ton of appreciation that, especially doing it in today's time frame where, you got the NIL, the social media is even bigger now. And those are things that you have to manage outside of the tournament, because I don't really believe the NCAA tournament is about wrestling. It's about managing everything else, the weight cuts, your nutrition, your energy output, the external media, request, all those things. And it's managing it in a 72-hour period where if your weight's off, that's going to throw you off probably a little bit. So I just feel like he's done a really good job of managing those things. And he gets to be it's a 5-time All-American.
5-time All-American.
4 times at the tournament, though.
Right.
4-time Big 12 champ, 115, or is it 120 and 5?
Oh boy,
120 and 5.
I think so. It's close to
I was like,
you can count your L's on
one hand. That's a pretty good career.
That's solid. And a 2-time national champ, and I don't believe like he's done yet by any means. Like he popped into the foundation the other day too, and it was like he's getting ready for Olympic trials, April 19th and 20th. So that's like super exciting for him.
What weight is he going at? Do you know?
He'll be at 74 kilos, so
that's what I figured.
163.3. But like this will be his second time, and I think the first time he was undersized, he was young, and now it's like you're a grown man, 25 recently. So I think there's a lot of positives happening for him, and that will happen for him, and hopefully he'll have a long, healthy freestyle career and get to represent in Paris, LA, Australia if he so chooses. So that would be really cool to see.
For sure. We talked about Keegan O'Toole in that match, which obviously much deserved. Keegan is one of the best wrestlers on the planet. But then we get to the championship match against Mitchell Messenbrink, the freshman, undefeated. And that match, the people that listen to this podcast know my thoughts on that match. But I'll give a brief overview if this is your first time, if you didn't hear last week's episode. There was a lot of stalling calls in that match that I didn't love. I thought they were bad calls.
To say the least.
Yeah. If you're if you're David Carr in that situation and that ref is hitting you with a stall call, it hits you with a stall call as you're shooting a shot and getting a takedown, which was the most egregious one to me. How do you react as a wrestler, and how do you get your mind right in that, okay, that's the ref can call what he's going to call. I need to stay focused on the guy in front of me, because that's got to be hard to do at some point. Like my reaction would be to look over my shoulder, like, what's happening right now?
Right.
So as a wrestler, how do you manage that? How do you get past that?
I think he's been coached to not worry about, like officiating, because otherwise it gets frustrating, right?
Mhm.
Especially when you're in a situation where, if you look at even the match count and the total takedowns
Mhm.
or the takedown attempts, like full, like real
Actual shots.
real takedown attempts,
Yep.
He had more.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And so I yeah, like even when he got hit for that takedown, there's like a video on Instagram where you can see the ref look away, and then he looks back, and David is shooting, and he calls him, like for stalling. So I think it's just one of those things where there has to be accountability.
Mhm.
And there's right now, I don't think there's anything in place
Mhm.
for officials. And I know wrestling isn't lucrative for these officials, and they're probably taking time away from their, day jobs to
Mhm.
come and be a part of this opportunity. That doesn't mean you can't hold a standard
Yep.
of
Mhm.
excellence and accountability, because I just don't. I think the calls, it was just bad calls, and so
Yep. Even go back to the
just-
Dayton Fix and Vito Rougeau match.
Yeah.
Similar
Yeah.
thing. Like, this isn't necessarily a David Carr thing. This is
this is I think just across the board. And I think officiating is hard. I've never
sure.
done it.
For sure it is.
I just don't feel like that's a lane that I want to grow wrestling in. I think there's a lot of people that can do that lane, but you have to give them opportunities, and I don't know this official's name. I know it was number 3, but like I would love for, like, throughout the year, like you have like the NBA has a 2-minute review,
Mhm.
right? Where they're like in the last 2 minutes, they make sure all the calls are right.
Yep.
I think those things are important. Like make their a public review. Like, oh, there was this type of reprimand for this call, this behavior, because even when David was shooting his blast doubles, you see Mitchell go like this, trying to like stop it. The ref calls the time. David has a conversation with him, and I believe it goes something like, oh, he called injury timeout, I'll choose down. He's like, no, that's my time. And it's like, in what world?
Yeah.
Like he waved it off,
Mhm.
and so just like things like that I don't know if that would have been called the same way on the other foot.
Mhm.
But either way, it needs to be consistent, right? Like you see a kid calling injury time, but I think it's one of those things that it always comes down to it. Like Gable had that type of power in his era when he was, coaching all the teams, but like the teams that are the best, they don't need the calls.
Yeah.
They often don't. like,
Yeah.
and so I just think there has to be some accountability. And the sooner that happens, I think the better it will be for the sport and just for the people in the sport, because this does mess with people's lives.
Mhm.
If you allow it to. But I think David was coached not to worry about the officiating, and I think he just made a decision that, kind of like Vito said, was like, I felt like they didn't want me to win the match.
Well, that's
Again-
what it seemed like.
Again,
Yep.
we don't care.
Yeah.
Like, and like that's where you're at in those situations. You could care less who you have to compete against. I think you train for it, because the truth of the matter is, when you get to the Olympics, or you go to Dagestan, or you go to the middle of Poland for a wrestling match, there's going to be calls that are very, very unfavorable, or ones you might deem fair. And you just got to figure out and add that into your training. So,
Mhm. Okay. I appreciate that. That is excellent perspective. What was your take on the whole Mitchell Messenbrink and David Carr match as a whole, just from a wrestling perspective? There was a lot of high level wrestling. That, I mean, David hitting that blast double almost right off the whistle was just like, all right, freshman, welcome to the big time.
yes. And I thought they both like really put it out there.
Mm-hmm.
I think they did a good job of preparing Mitchell just to. I don't think he was even like prepared for David, but just he was prepared to like wrestle hard and wrestle at a very tense pace. And David was ready to do the same. And so like the exchanges they had, even the ones that weren't scored, I thought it was really high level wrestling. The reattacks from both of them were like out this world. And I think David again just kind of was like, no, I'm like, it's not your time yet type vibes. Like you got a lot more time. I don't. And I'm going to make sure my time is remembered in this way. And so it'll be interesting because I think depending on how Messenbrink's career goes, that just grows David's legacy in terms of like who he beat. You know, like I thought my bracket was tough. I think this bracket would rival that for sure. And like as the career goes on, I only had one NCAA champ in the bracket at the time. At the end of it, it was 6 NCAA titles. Depending on what happens next year, you got O'Toole with two already. Depending on if he moves up, if Mitchell stays down, you could easily have 6 titles and even more, including David Hamidi, depending on if he gets one. And there's a lot of high level skill in that bracket. So yeah, I thought it was like amazing. And so I was excited. I didn't get to be there in person for it because I didn't have a voice. So I stayed back at the hotel and watched. But I was just like, man, this is good. So I was just chilling. My uncle had left to go over. My cousin had left, and I was just chilling. And I was just like, dang, I can't talk right now. This is crazy. Like they're scrapping. So that's how I was. But I had a blast watching the finals. I'm really excited, and I hope there will be opportunities next year to cover it, and I'll be more prepared next year. It's like a freshman coming in. You don't really know what it's like. Like I remember my freshman year, I didn't understand what it was going to be like to like wrestle in the tournament, and so I had an idea a little bit of what it would be like to cover it, but it's a totally different beast. So shout out to you guys and everyone that covers the tournament, because it's like once the wrestling is over, you just watch wrestling for 3-4 hours. Now you got to write stories, you got to find the storylines, you got to pick out a quote, you still got to interview, still got to take care of yourself, and that's where I think I failed at. It was like, oh, I didn't understand what all was going to be necessary. I don't think I stayed great hydration wise for several reasons. But then like I didn't drink any like tea until it was like Friday night. I can't talk. And so it was good, but it was a blast. It was a blast.
Covering the tournament is definitely like, every night I feel like I got hit by a train.
Yes.
Every single night. And especially like after Big 12s, I came in here and I told Aiden, I said, my legs are so beat up from like the standing, the kneeling, the sitting cross-legged, the sprinting around the mats. So I totally get it. I think I change up the way I cover something every single time I go because
you just add
chaos.
like it's like you just get data on what works and what doesn't, and how to just make things probably like as efficient as possible for your process, and so that people can keep people engaged while still putting out high level stuff,
Well, you kind of like learn to work with your strengths. So like for Big 12s, for example, I knew that my biggest value was the pictures and videos I was taking. So when I looked at the clock after they won the title, I was like, there's no reason for me to sit here and try and write. I'm a very slow writer. So I was like, it's about 1 a.m. No one gives a shit what I'm writing right now. So I just spent until 3 a.m. editing pictures because I knew that's what people wanted. So you just gotta kind of play around with it.
Yeah. And I think that's important, just like for people to like understand that's what this looks like. It's done at 3 and then you're back up at 7:30
Yep.
because you're
Yep.
trying to get a quick bite before you have to go over for
Yeah.
8, so you can get some warm-up photos and all those things. It's not for like, oh, you're gonna get like a bag for doing this, like
No.
it's
No.
for the love of the
It
love of the
really is.
sport,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
the appreciation of the craft and the art that these young people are partaking in.
Absolutely.
I feel like this tournament specifically made me realize just how much, I mean, I always know how much I love the sport, but like you brought up the competition, like this season specifically, I don't think I've paid attention to so much of the field as a whole. Like I was locked in so many matches that didn't have Iowa State, that weren't even necessarily like Big 12 implications. Like there's just so many good, talented guys and just so much good wrestling that was going on. So that was something I did want to kind of switch gears and ask you, like, how do you feel the health of the sport is right now? And, being there, how did you feel about the competition and the guys out there who are competing?
I think the sport is pretty healthy. I think NIL does have some impacts on it.
Mhm.
So it'll be interesting to see kind of what happens. Like with the transfer portal, like you saw some names enter into it. Was it last week, right? Like last
Mhm.
week.
Mhm.
But the thing that's wild to me is like, how does the portal open up in season?
Right.
I
Like,
actually thought the same
Basketball's
thing.
dealing with that.
Yeah.
They're dealing with that right now too.
that's
It's ridiculous.
crazy. Like,
yeah.
Mhm.
like so you got you got your head coach that's like, okay, like, do I need to be recruiting this guy? Like, so I don't think it gives the ability to really focus on the student athlete well-being when you're doing that in the middle, like the middle of a tournament, right? But yeah, I think the Big 12 is coming on really strong again. Like I kind of said, was like, I think that's something I really want to maybe like entertain or figure out a plan of action to cover that like at a high level and bring eyes to the Big 12, because you got Arizona State coming in, you got
Right.
Little Rock, and like those are two prominent programs. Like Arizona State is going to compete well at the national championships every year.
Mhm.
They have some Penn State flavor in their coaching staff that really tries to focus on not as much of the regular season, but performance at their conference championships in the NCAA tournament. You have Little Rock and Neil Arisman's doing an amazing job with that program. You got Albert White and Austin Schaefer on that staff as well, people that I know. And so it's been really cool to see people find their niche, like Little Rock maybe can't go get a big time, pound for pound, top 10 right now, but they can go find the kid like Tyler Harper from Norwalk, who is maybe hadn't blossomed yet, and they get on him early and are able to create that relationship, kind of like West Virginia did with Ty Waters.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Just like getting to these kids early, which is also really wild, because if you think about it, like a 40-year-old contacting a 16-year-old, like, hey, like I want you to, spend next 5 years with me. Like it's
Yeah.
kind of wild,
That
but
is.
When you say it like that.
just
It is weird.
yeah. But like it's I think it'll be really, really important for the sport to just provide accountability. I think for like officiating, things like that. But then I think the student athletes also have to continue to like grow and evolve as people, and just getting information and knowledge earlier because of what they're walking into.
Mhm.
Because I think Starachi just got a lawsuit maybe from, I don't know, that might be April Fool's behavior. But
Oh, the natty daddy thing?
Yep.
I did see that.
So I don't know if that was April Fool's behavior or not, but like that would be wild.
I feel like it was. Did you see that?
I didn't see that.
Someone tweeted that Starachi was getting sued by Bush Light, right? Because he used the term natty daddy. And I feel like it was an April Fool's joke.
Okay. Because I was like, yo, that's crazy.
But when I first saw it, I was like, this wouldn't even
it
surprise
would
me.
not.
Like
That's
it
what I'm
really
saying.
wouldn't.
Yeah.
Because of no.
Those are the best April Fool's jokes though.
I think it was. But again, because
But they
of
have to
the-
be prepared for that, though.
Yeah.
Like, like they do have to be prepared for those type of things. So just I think the more information or knowledge that they can get from, safe and healthy spaces is more beneficial to the sport. But then even just like outside of men's NCAA Division I wrestling, the women's is
Mhm.
blossoming, and
yeah, they're rapidly growing.
yeah, and that's something I want to be on the forefront of, just selfishly, because I have a a 5-year-old daughter, and I don't think she's going to be a first sport wrestler,
Mhm.
but she's going to have to do a little bit of it, just because she's going to be around it. She doesn't have to want to be great at it, but I think it does teach you a lot about yourself and gives you the opportunity to really like learn some important skills, about getting down and picking yourself back up and working on yourself and deficiency. I think she's actually going to be a swimmer.
Really?
If I'm guessing. Yeah, I think she likes the water. But it's
Yeah.
always interesting because it's like you like the water until you're in it every day, maybe.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see what happens. We're gonna get to go to Hawaii this summer.
Oh, nice.
fun.
Yeah,
That's
for
awesome.
Grant Nakamura.
Yeah.
He was 125 pounder for
Mhm.
Iowa State.
Yeah.
He was cracking me up because we had been talking about coming out for camp for a while, and he was like, "Do you remember what happened when you were like 14 or 15?" I'm like, I just remember like getting beat up in the room, bro. Like it was just like one of those things, like because we would drive down here with my dad would have a van, and we would drive down to practice, and I remember like getting beat up. Like it was like you get beat up and you go back and try to make some adjustments. I have a lot of those memories, like Mike Van Arsdale,
Yeah.
just going into the Iowa State Hall of Fame
Mhm.
this year. I remember him coming in the room like while he was still like I think training UFC, or at least coaching it at a really high level with like Team Rashad,
Mhm.
Team Evans. And like he came in the wrestling room like barefoot at Waterloo East, and just like I didn't score a point. And I just remember being like dejected because I might have been a state champ at that point,
Yeah.
and just like couldn't score on this man. And I remember yeah, there's a lot of like butt whoopings in private to like grow and evolve and build yourself to a space where you have opportunities to compete. And it's just it's cool like reminiscing about it a little bit. But like I'm excited to see Mike come back for his Hall of Fame induction, and I'm
Mhm.
excited to go out to Hawaii and do that wrestling camp. And yeah, it's just good stuff.
For sure.
Iowa State ties all the way.
All around.
Yeah.
Well, talking about butts getting kicked, I would love to talk about you practicing with Younger.
Yeah.
Your tweet right after Big 12s when he did that.
When his leg was up
Yeah,
in one
his
air.
leg was up in the air and he countered, and it just was a work of art. And
Yeah.
you tweeted that it wasn't surprising when you've seen it in the room.
Yeah.
Have you
it's just
done that with him?
No, he's never done that. All right. So like, he's never done that.
Okay.
Like that was just different.
Yeah.
But like there was several times where just like his level helped me grow, like as a a freestyle athlete. That's what he came from, so like the same adaptation I was trying to make from folk style to freestyle is the same adaptation he's still trying to make, and I think he's working at. And so like getting to a leg and getting his leg up in the air was like one of the hardest things to like combat. And the only person that I've ever felt that has maybe like similar athleticism and flexibility is like Jaden Cox.
Okay.
And if you ever watch Jaden, like he's credential wise, amazing credentials,
Yep.
And so it's just like, man, like, but then there'll be like stuff that happens and you're just like, dang, like I think like even like going and wrestling Jaden in getting him ready for like Rio. I went down to Colombia, and it's like some of the stuff that you're just like, yo, this person is gonna go out there and be a full blown problem for people, And so I'm really excited to watch the trials April 19th and 20th and see kind of what's up with everyone. So, but yeah, Younger he has a lot of capability. to do a lot of really good stuff, but he's still making that, like that transition. It's only 4 years. And I know it's easy to be like, it should already be done, like it should already be, solidified or set in stone. But it's like, it's 4 years, like the things and the adaptations and just evolutions I think he's come a long way.
For
And
sure.
I think the one thing that kind of, I guess, probably stuck me up a little bit at NCAAs is I don't think we got to see a proper display of his toughness. Because I know he's tough. Like, I've seen him compete, I've seen him practice and train, and I don't think we got to see a true representation of him applying his toughness at that tournament. After that tough loss in the quarterfinals, I think it's one of those things where some people do a better job of refocusing and recentering, and I think he didn't do that this time, and like that stinks, right? And I think that's something like he'll work through, and the coaches will work through with him, and hold him accountable again to like a standard of when you put it all together, which we saw him do for 22 matches, regardless of the circumstances, you'll be okay with what happens. And I don't think we got to see that, for those 3 days, or it wasn't even 3 days, it was 2 days. Those 2 days in March. I think that's going to really be fun because it reminds me of a conversation I had with Kevin Jackson after my junior year. I don't think you were covering us then yet.
Nope,
Ben.
not
Yeah,
quite. Yep.
Yeah. And so I had lost to Scott Schiller twice in the regular season. So coming off kind of, I would say, the grieving hangover and probably still being in the midst of it with my dad passing. We go into junior year. I lose to him at the Cyclone Open. We go to the Southern Scuffle. I feel prepared. I lose him there. I feel like he just beat me there. And then we wrestled in the dual meet, and I beat him in the dual meet in Hilton. And so going into NCAAs, I was ranked number 1 by all the publications, and then the seeds come out, and I'm seeded 5th. So I have like seeding. I have seeding conspiracies.
Yeah,
I have.
So David was the 4th seed, so
I have seeding conspiracies. And I'm like, so literally, the only person I've lost to in my last 3 matches in college just happens to get the 4th seed in the quarter. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just like, and I won last. When I lost to him, he was ranked number 2 in the country. He was ranked number 1. Then I beat him, I think, when he was ranked 4 or 5. And I'm like, so I avenged the loss, and I still get seeded 5th when the person that got seeded 1 had a loss to someone outside the top 10 that I pinned. I'm just like, the math isn't mathing.
Yeah, make it make sense.
As the kids say, the math isn't mathing. And so I'm like, this is wild. But I ended up losing to Schiller in that quarterfinal match. Just wasn't the best guy that year. I just don't think I was collectively locked in, like focus wise. And then we get to the 3rd place match, and I distinctly remember after I lost, I like had these like dark thoughts, not about like hurting myself, but like getting out of the tournament, like just being like, I don't want to be here anymore. I came for 1st place. This is stupid. And I was like emotionally like done with wrestling, and I was done before the match, but it was just like, I just knew I had made a commitment to winning an NCAA title. So if I would have won as a junior, I would have just been done. Like, I would have just walked away from wrestling because it was just emotionally, it was just too much for me to want to deal with and figure out. I was just like, I'm going to win, I'm going to graduate, and I'm out. And so I remember getting ready to wrestle Christian Boley from Maryland. Big old like Jack dude. I think he did WWE for a little bit. And it's like these dark thoughts, like while I'm getting like warmed up, just like how do you lose but make it look like decent, like just like crazy thoughts.
Yeah.
And like I've had some conversations with some wrestlers like that, like those thoughts have hit them, but then like once you get out there, like you either adjust and adapt, or like your energy isn't there, but you're still out there. You're not like trying to lose, but you're maybe not like giving it everything to win. And I remember when the guy grabbed me, I was like, he does not want to be here. like way worse than I don't want to be here.
Mm.
And so I'm like, I can't lose it. Like you wouldn't be able to come back from this, you know? And so like I end up like winning, and I'm like, then you get back on the winning side of things and you get rolling again. But then I end up losing to Schiller again for third place, and still just like focus wise wasn't there. And Minnesota was in like the team title conversation that year in 2014. So I remember their coach being like, go get the major. And I'm like, yo, that's crazy. Like the fact that you think he can major me is like nuts to me. Like didn't get majored in college other than the red shirt, I think freshman red shirt year.
Yeah.
Not in the singlet. And I'm like, yo, you really think you can major me? That's crazy. But whatever. And I remember going and getting a takedown, but then KJ just went, what the, like didn't say it, but just like, bruh, like, come on. And like those feelings are like real. Like they're like, it's like terrible, nasty. And people don't think like that happens, but like it's real. Like once your heart gets ripped out, the ability, that's why I have so much appreciation for what David did when he was a sophomore after winning, coming back and getting third. And like, it wasn't the prettiest, right? Like it wasn't like he just was like, all right, I'm gonna go tech everyone now. Like, but he figured out how to get it done. I feel like that was a huge moment for him, just like as a young man, like being like, okay, I can do stuff that's like super hard, even when maybe I don't want to, like, or it's not what I came here for. And so, yeah, it's just, it's super interesting stuff, like the psychology, like behind it all. But I think that's why I love wrestling so much, is because it teaches you so much about yourself, and it'll show you like if you're deficient. Like it'll let you know if you don't take the time to get back on the saddle or do the things necessary to put yourself back in the right mind frame. It'll show you that you're inefficient. And I remember I said something after the match that year. I was like, oh, I'll get him next year. And KJ kind of like shoulder checked me with his hand and was like, no, like you just had 2 opportunities to go get this dude and you didn't. I don't want to hear anything about you'll get him next year. You just had opportunities to do so. And it was like accountability moment, you know? And we actually got to chop it up about that like recently. And it was just like, I appreciate you. He was like, it was too important to not say anything, you know? And so I know Younger has those people in his life that'll challenge him to meet that standard and even exceed that standard. So I don't have any worries about that, because KD used to say to me, like, when the real Kyven Gadson shows up, it's going to be a problem for a lot of people, you know? And when Younger collectively puts that all together, it'll be a problem for NCAA college wrestling heavyweights, as well as MMA, UFC, Bellator, ONE, PFL. It'll be a full-blown problem for him. So I feel like my role is just to help support him in that journey as much as possible. And I think he'll come to it. He'll figure it out, because you can't tell me a guy that leaves his family, you know, in Cuba, come halfway, or not halfway across the world, but making that decision, like, oh, I won't be able to go back for a while if I make this decision, to with that type of belief, won't do the work necessary to put themselves in position to achieve the success they want to see. So
for sure.
Yeah.
We could talk about Younger all day here. So to kind of bring us full circle, bring us to a semi-end, I should say. From your perspective, Iowa State as a whole, how did you walk out of Kansas City feeling about the program and their future?
What's the right word for that? The right word, I don't know if I have like a right one word, but I feel encouraged by the direction. I feel encouraged by the direction, not just the athletes, but the support, the administration, the fans. I think there's a lot of positive things happening in Ames, Iowa with wrestling. And I mean, Frost. Love it.
I loved
Like,
his
you know what I mean?
tournament.
He's a
Like
dog.
Yes.
he's a dog, and I really thought he had an opportunity to get Dayton, and
He did.
again
He was right there.
officiating. I
Mhm.
Yeah, I
think
was gonna say, don't get me started on that.
accountability is huge.
Call it
But
stalemate. Sorry.
yeah,
no,
you
don't need to
know,
get into it. Don't need
I
to get
know, it
into
drives me nuts to think about.
yeah, like Anthony,
Mhm.
Mhm.
and then Anthony NWA scholar,
Yeah.
Yeah,
scholar
that was, I
athlete.
saw that.
Like then you got Casey, you know, like those dudes, like they did the work, you know, and like Anthony and Frost. I think I have probably maybe a little bit like deeper like relationships with them. Just I met Frost when he was a kid in Louisiana,
Mm.
doing a camp for Ryak Finch. And so I met both of them, you know, Evan and Jacob in Louisiana in 2019. And so it's like cool to see, you know, Evan's story get to that
Mhm.
space. And it I think for me it provides excitement about what Jacob can do, as well, because they have similar, you know, styles. But then it's just one of those things where the success of the program is about keeping, you know, like keeping all these guys around. Like you got Redding in there, you got Swiderski, you got Chittum, you got Gaitan, you know, like all these guys are all around like the same like spaces and weights, and they're sharpening each other, and I think that's super important. But like I think the staff has done a really good job just all around of, you know, putting people in position to be in position. And I think when you have that happening, I think a lot of people get to be happy that are associated with, you know, like Iowa State wrestling. So I just feel I feel super encouraged
Mhm.
with where everything is, and like even what's happening in recruiting, retaining uh retaining the talent is extremely important. And so I'm assuming they're going to probably try to go find some guys, maybe a couple in the portal. And I think that's a coach's job, right? The coach's
Mhm.
job is to um try to make the room as tough as possible, and then give you the resources, um as a student athlete, to grow and evolve yourself, so that you're the person that gets to go out, you know, every week in Hilton and compete and go travel and things like that. So the coach's job is to make the room as tough as possible. The student athlete's job is to take care of their schoolwork and um, make sure the coach has an easy decision to make.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
like hey, look, this is the guy. You know,
Yep.
it doesn't always work out that way, but I think I feel encouraged by the direction of the program. I was just pumped. I had a lot of fun at the tournament, just being able to watch, seeing, you know, the room full after um the Friday night social, the Saturday night social.
Mhm.
There's just a ton of Iowa State love out there, and I hope it'll be the same in Philadelphia.
Mhm.
But I hope it'll be even hotter and and rowdier in Hilton next year. That's what I would love to see, and I think there's a lot of positive things happening.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
think going back to it's the coach's job. Like bring transfers in, build the best team possible, the most competitive room possible. I think the best example of that is Evan Frostwaite. They bring in Garrett Grice from Virginia, I think.
Yep.
I assumed he was going to be the starter when you bring him in.
Mhm.
And then you go watch wrestle-offs, and Evan Frost beats him pretty good. It's like, oh, this Evan Frost kid's going to go out there and do some things. And he goes Cleveland State first dual meet. I think it was a tech fall. It's like, okay,
Mhm.
this guy's real. And then we just saw him get better and better seemingly every match.
Yeah.
So I think that's just the perfect Evan Frost is that perfect encapsulation of, yeah, you're going to bring in the best guys. You're going to bring as many good guys as you can. It's your job to rise to the top. And
Yeah.
that's what Evan did.
Yeah. And like, yeah, it's just a model of consistency. I think he just displayed a model of consistency and really strong habits, and just belief, like, oh, if we do this. And like I was talking to Ryak about him, and he was like, you know, I talked to the mom when they were younger, and I was just like, hey, I know how this goes, because I mean, I think if you were to ask Ryak, he didn't have the career maybe he wanted to at Iowa State. And there's probably a multitude of variables and reasons why that didn't happen. But I think he also was like, all right, this didn't work this way for me, because coming out of high school, you're on a senior ladder, all those things. And so it's like, let's maybe slow roast this success. Like, let's not overdo the success early. Let's do it kind of, maybe you could even equate it to like what David did, is greater later. Like, we want you to be at your best towards the end of your career. Like, whenever that happens, if that's college, great. If that's senior level, awesome. So I just think Iowa State's in a really, really cool spot.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm gonna need you to cut this, but plug. You got the ISU wrestling facility.
Mhm.
I am a development officer. So if anybody has any interest at all right, in supporting the ISU wrestling facility, and you can't get a hold of Kevin Dresser, you can get a hold of me. All
There
right.
you go.
And
Your DMs are open.
you can give me a call, an email, whatever, if you want to do some support for the wrestling facility, because it's amazing. And it's gonna be like
it looks like it's gonna be incredible.
it's gonna be an incredible facility. And I hope I still have key card access.
Oh, I'm sure you will.
Because that looks like it's gonna be like really nice. And so that's gonna be really cool. And I think that's just another tool that the staff would be able to use for recruiting for a long time, So it'll be that'll be really cool.
Absolutely.
Any final thoughts, Ben?
No, this is awesome. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming and joining us and closing out the season for us.
Yeah.
No, this is awesome. I appreciate it. And another plug.
Let's hear it.
So like some of the guys, like one of the things that I'm working on with some people, we just started a Myriad Mixed Martial Arts Academy in Ames. Yep. With Jake Bauer, Haras Varas, and Luis Guillen. And we have like jujitsu, striking, kickboxing, wrestling classes.
Oh, wow.
Because I think some of the guys, if I had to, let me ask you a question.
Yep.
Who do you think would be the best MMA guy outside of Younger? Because he's already said that he wants to do that. But who would you want to see transition into that world after their wrestling career?
My initial thought would be Casey would be excellent. Mine was going to be Anthony.
Yeah, Casey or Anthony.
Yeah. And so I think those guys, I think MJ potentially.
MJ was going to be my second after or third after Casey.
Yeah. MJ. So like you got Younger, you got Casey, you got Anthony, MJ. I think Chittum wants to fight too, potentially.
I can see it.
And so I think having this, gym is also like an opportunity for them to, like if they have an off day, they can go work on some striking. And I think just long-term vision wise, 5 to 10 years, like then if they do decide to stick around and train, and do their Olympic stuff, they can still work on those skills
for sure.
And that's something that they're doing at the place out east. I won't be named. So that other east, the blue east.
Way east.
Yeah. So just like trying to fill gaps, with those things so that everyone has their role. You got to have people in the right seat on the bus. So we have some MMA competitions coming up April 13th, Ignite Fights, Marshalltown, Iowa Fight Series 2. We got some guys competing in that. And then May 11th, Absolute Combat League in Des Moines. So if anyone has any like questions or anything on that stuff, please reach out. I think we're going to get the MMA community growing here. So shout out to everybody that's involved in the Myriad Mixed Martial Arts Academy. So
there you go.
Yeah,
awesome.
Had to do that.
You're staying busy.
Something like that. Yeah. Something like that.
Well, thanks, Kyven. We appreciate
Thank you guys. Thank you guys.
Well, guys, that's it for the season. That, as I said, Kyven, always a great interview. Did you have a good time, Ben?
It was a lot of fun. Kyven, I mean, we had him on earlier in the season, and that was a great conversation. And this, again, just excellent conversation. You always bring such a unique perspective. It's not, we are so lucky to be able to have a national champion wrestler join us. It's such a great perspective to have. And yeah, he's he's so personable. So it's such a good interview. So it's always great to have him on.
And he's so open.
Mhm.
I love that he talks about the things that I wish current wrestlers would talk about.
Yep.
And maybe they haven't realized it yet. You know, they're still
maturity thing.
They're still so in it. So and he brought us ice cream.
Shout out to Kyven. Championship. Go.
This is
Ice
not an
creamer.
ad. This is genuinely he brought us ice cream.
Yep. That's great.
But yeah, year three in the books
Year
for our
3 in the
podcast.
books. That's unbelievable.
I can't believe it. 3 years, people still listen to us. And Fareway continues to support us. So, as always, Ben, it's been a pleasure. Something really crazy has to happen for us to come back this summer.
Mhm.
So, if anything crazy recruiting wise happens, then we'll come back. But otherwise, this is the last episode of the season, and we'll be back in essentially October.
Yep.
So,
Yep. Or rule changes. Didn't we do an emergency pod for the rule change? Or did I just write
We
something? I think we
did.
did an
We did.
emergency pod.
Yeah,
for that. So if
last
they're more
August.
crazy.
I think it was conference realignment stuff.
that too. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
conference realignment. And that's going to be well,
it
maybe a
could
lesser
be.
degree. But
Could be.
if the ACC implodes, hey, we'll take NC State.
I wouldn't say no.
And UNC. We'll take both of them.
Give us all the programs. Screw the Big Ten.
That's right.
But yeah, like I said, if anything crazy happens, you can count on Ben and I to return to the mic. But otherwise, this is where we close it out.
Yep. Enjoy your off season. We will.
Well, is it really an off season? Well, I guess it is kind of for us.
It's for us,
Yeah.
not the coaches. They're going to be recruiting.
I think Dresser was on a plane the day after
I'm sure.
championships. So, well, thank you so much, guys, for listening all season. We love interacting with you guys. We love hearing your feedback. And we can't wait to do it again. I'll be missing wrestling probably by June. Let's be honest. So thanks, guys. And again, huge thank you to Fareway, who continues to support us each and every single season.